When I was young, sometimes we would ski, and our skis were just a long board and curved up on the end, and then about in the middle there was a hole or slit bored through, and there was a leather strap through there, and then you just stick your toes in the leather strap. Almost zero control over the skis, but nevertheless we'd go skiing. There was a place and our neighbors, Wellers, and they had a little short hill, and so so I would ski down and then pick up my skis, one under each arm, and walk up, and then put them on and ski down, and then put them under each arm and walk up. And at Weller's place, the walk was maybe 50 feet. I don't know, but anyway, it was a short enough hill that I didn't get going too fast, and I usually didn't fall down. But then the bigger challenge is when we went to our spillway. My father had built a reservoir on our property to catch the water and then use it for irrigation. And when it spilled over, it went down the spillway, and that had killed the brush, the oak brush and the serviceberry and chokecherry brush that was around the rest of the ground there. And so the spillway had grass on it. So in the winter, there was no brush on the spillway to keep us from skiing down it, but it was a lot longer run, and it was steep, fairly steep. It wouldn't be compared with what people ski on nowadays, but to me it was steep. And so sometimes we'd go out there. Now, there was one winter that was really, really, really a hard winter. That was the winter of 48, 49. And that was the year I turned 10. And that winter, the snow was deep and heavy. We lived on the upper loop, so the road left the main road and made a big loop, the shape of a U, and our whole loop was snowed in for a long time. By a long time, I'm talking probably 2 or 3 weeks. And so normally when it snowed, when it was our turn to get the road cleared, the county road grader would come and drive up and get the snow drifts out of the road, and it blew a lot. It drifted our road in a lot. So when the road grader would come, it'd have to put the snow up on banks. Well, so this was a hard winter, and it got so that the snow grader couldn't. There was no place to put the snow. The banks were too high, and then they brought a crawler caterpillar with the front end dozer on it, and it got so it was too much for it. They began to open the road up from the other leg of the U, and they opened it up to Louise's, and then they finally opened it up to Weller's, and then they finally opened it up to our place, and the school bus finally would come up around and turn around at our place and go back down, because our lane was closed for a long time. And sometimes we walked down our lane to the main road.
For the school bus?
Huh?
Did you have to walk down there to get the school bus, or was school canceled?
School was probably canceled a day or two, but mostly it was not canceled. So there were days and days and days that they held school that our lane was not open. But I do remember and of course we had to dress up really warm, heavy coats and heavy snow pants and boots and heavy hats and gloves and stuff. And I remember of walking home from school one day with the wind blowing so hard. But by saying walking home, I'm talking about up the lane. The school bus would drop us off from the main road. And I can remember of turning my back to the wind so that I could catch my breath. So anyway, this heavy winter, and there was so much snow that it got so deep that in the spring when there was crust, we walked to church. Instead of down the road, we walked to church through the field over the top of the fences. It had gotten so deep. So that winter, Ken and some of his buddies went skiing out to the spillway. And he let me go along. Ken was a good brother. He let me tag along. And I don't remember if any of my friends came or not. We had Sarah Weller was a friend that I spent time with, and Nida Lewis was a time that I spent time with, and Nida might have had brothers come. Kent Lewis came, but so we'd get to the top of the spillway and try to get our skis to hold still while we put our toes into the leather straps. It just went over the toes, and then down we'd go, and the skis would wiggle and waggle, and we'd bump and jump, and I never once made it to the bottom of the hill without falling over. Now, I think that Ken probably did. And then Ken got innovative and he would cut a strip of inner tube. We didn't have tubeless tires on cars then. You had a rubber inner tube that held the air, and then it fit inside of the tire. So anyway, if there got too many leaks in the tubes, then the tubes were no good for the tires. But Ken used them for rubber guns and for trying to make the skis more stable on our feet. So he put rubber loop or circle or something through the hole where the skis had the leather toe leather, and then back around so that they would hook onto the heel of our shoe, or well, it would have been overshoes, rubber overshoes over the top of our shoes. I think he and some of his friends got so that they could make it to the bottom. And Kent Lewis brought a toboggan. At least you didn't fall off the toboggan, but it was a fast, scary ride. I'm not sure if I ever got to ride the toboggan or not.
What about riding sleds on the crust?
Oh, in the spring, when the weather got warm in the daytime, it would melt the snow, and then it would freeze at nighttime, and it created a condition in the snow called crust, and the crust often in the spring, like March and April, would get so hard that you could walk on top of the snow. And we had a place called the Upper Lucerne. It was a field that was on an incline, and it was a great, great big hay field, and I could go up to the top of the incline there, and I could get on my sled and start down, and I could circle around, and end up almost back where I started from. Then I'd jump off the sled and pull it and ride up, start again. Oh, I loved that. The trouble is, I seldom had anybody that would go with me. I guess Ken was too old and Doug was too little. But I sure did love that. But on Saturday morning, I'd say to my mom, "Can I go sledding on the crust?" And she'd say, "After your work's done." and my work was to wash the kitchen chairs. I can't remember what else, but that was the best motivation that I ever had to hurry and get my work done. Because if I waited too long and the sun came out, it would melt and I'd fall through. So I had to get up and do it early. But I sure loved it. And I always wished that I could reproduce that experience for my children. And I never did until one time, Lava Hot Springs, Idaho, Tim and I were visiting Ken and Colleen and Jim one spring day, and Tim and I went sledding on the crust. Didn't we, Tim?
We did, and I couldn't believe how hardcore you were to do that, because you weren't a whole lot younger than you are now, and you trudged up the hill and got on the sled and started to inch forward to get ready to go down, and all you said was, "Oh boy, this is scary," and then you went off, cruising down the hill.
Okay, that's all I've got to say about that, I guess.
Okay, I got one question for you. Can you tell me about your baptism?
You want me to tell about that?
Yeah, when you were
Okay.
70 years ahead of the curve of
Okay.
home-centered church.
Okay. When it was time for me to go be baptized in March, which was my birthday month, I was sick. I had earache. I was sick a lot with earache and sore throat. So I couldn't go when the kids my age went to the stake center to the baptismal font. And then finally in September, and where I lived in Marion, September was cool weather in the morning. And my parents said, well, let's go get you baptized. And they took me up to the big reservoir. It was Mom and me and Pop. Pop had gotten permission from the bishop to baptize me. So the three of us went up to the big reservoir, and Pop baptized me, and Mom was the witness.
And I guess you were the second witness, huh?
I guess. And then we went to church that day, and Bishop Louise confirmed me.
Were you
So
wearing white?
What?
Were you all wearing white?
I don't know. I don't know. They didn't have jumpsuits and all that fancy stuff then. I don't think Mom would have been wearing white. I don't know what Pa wore. I don't know. I don't remember what I wore. But when I was confirmed that day, why Bishop Louise confirmed me, and I later asked Pa, well, why didn't you confirm me? And he said, well, there were some other ordinances being performed that day, and I had been asked by the parents of these other children to do theirs, and I didn't want to hog it all. I wanted to share it, so I let Bishop Louise confirm you.
Nice. Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay, thank you.